China's economic downturn has lasted for a long time. More and more young people are spending the night in parks or under bridges in many large cities. On September 26, 2025, Caixing.com, a Chinese news website, reported that Cheng Ronghui of the National Bureau of Statistics had organized 34 provincial-level survey agencies to conduct a comprehensive survey of the homeless population nationwide. Data showed that as of the end of August, there were approximately 47.5 million homeless people in China, a 5.3-fold increase compared to 2020. Among this group, 61% are under 33 years old and 25% are over 60 years old. This girl can't find work and, having nowhere else to go, has to spend the night in a park. Sleeping on the streets is truly the last choice in the most helpless moment. After resigning that day, I embarked on my journey away. I won't choose to return to my hometown. In the end, I will want to stay in the big city and see what it's like. After getting off the subway, I went to find a park because I had nowhere to stay for the night. When I got to the park entrance, I realized that some parks in Shanghai have curfews at night, and I was at a loss. Later, I opened a map and found the nearest park 10 kilometers away. I couldn't bear to spend the taxi fare, so I dragged my suitcase warily to the park. It was already past midnight when I arrived. It was past 1 a.m. and I couldn't see any pedestrians. It's hard to imagine what choices one would make in such a desperate situation. The park corridor was dirty, but I didn't mind. I just lay down, exhausted. The blogger said that because he had a suitcase, he was afraid it would be stolen, and he was easily awakened by the slightest noise at night. He didn't dare go to sleep until 5 a.m. The next morning, when it started to get light, it started raining at 10 a.m. So he bought 2 steamed buns and spent the morning like that. It was still raining in the afternoon, so he stayed in a 24-hour convenience store. The second night, having learned his lesson, he slept directly on the side of the road because the streetlights gave him a slight sense of security. A netizen commented in the comment section, "I've been homeless since I was only 15 years old. It's really tiring."
这住桥洞不用交房租，也不用交水电费。
Living under a bridge means no rent or utility bills, but there's a downside. It's too damp. Living there for a long time isn't good for your health, but I've solved that problem. See? Now I don't feel cold at all when sleeping. It's very comfortable.
现在睡觉的话是不怕冷了啊，非常的舒服。哎呀。
You might not believe it, but many people still sleep under bridges. There are delivery drivers, unemployed people from large companies, and many factory workers here, mostly low-income laborers. They live in cramped conditions under the bridge to save money, struggling to make ends meet and survive.
为了一家老小，为了一日三餐，风餐露宿。
我在这个桥洞里面。
I'm in this bridge arch. It will have been almost 2 months in a few days. Here, it's a warm little shelter from the wind and rain. Every day, my peaceful life is disturbed. The bridge arch is actually quite nice. It provides shelter from the wind and rain.
其实也挺好的，这个地方嘛，遮风挡雨。
这是受了什么刺激啊？这么冷的天睡在外面。
What happened? Sleeping outside in this cold weather, many netizens want to come to Hongdian to take a look. I thought it was a handsome guy here, but it turns out to be a pretty girl. In this cold weather, only a few degrees below zero, she's sleeping outside with just one blanket. I asked her if she needed help, but she didn't say anything.
问她要不要需要帮助，她也不说话。不行了，今天没有地方睡了。
No other way. I have nowhere to sleep today, so I'll challenge myself to sleep on the street. Let's see what it's like to sleep in this park pavilion. Arriving in Xinyang Station, see it? The streets at Yangjian Station are all taken, so I can only sleep next to them. How's this spot?
我就是只能睡旁边。这个位置怎么样？
现在是北京时间的凌晨3点36分。
It's 3:36 a.m. Beijing time. I'm on my way home, just finished work. When I passed by, I saw an elderly man collecting recyclables. His cart parked across the middle of the road. Actually, I had already passed him, but I felt worried about him having an emergency, so I went back to this spot where you can see him and filmed him from a distance.
不忍，担心他有什么突发的状况，就返回到现在大家能看到这个位置，远远的拍他。
The blogger later discovered that the elderly man hadn't suddenly fallen ill. He had just gotten sleepy while riding, which reassured him a little, and he turned and left. This scene left a deep impression on him. He lamented that many people always feel the world is unfair to them, yet, in fact, others most silently bear the burdens of life, struggling forward in difficult circumstances. A netizen working in the civil aviation industry commented, "One evening earlier this year after work, I was walking near the Rainbow Overpass when I saw an elderly man carrying a stack of cardboard boxes as tall as a refrigerator. Struggling to walk towards Da Tong Road, it was still quite chilly, and he was barefoot, inching forward on the sidewalk. My heart was instantly filled with mixed emotions. I didn't know whose grandfather he was or whose father he was, nor what difficulties he had encountered that made him work so hard at his age. Just 10 minutes before seeing this, I was complaining to a friend about my irregular and tiring work schedule. Sometimes I think about how many people are working much harder than I am. I have a stable job in a state-owned enterprise with Social Security and Housing Provident Fund. I'm actually very lucky." Recently, a large number of beggars appeared at a scenic spot in Shantou, Guangdong Province, sparking public concern. Online videos show that the steps of the scenic spot were filled with beggars, including many elderly people, disabled people, and even some who appeared to be sick, lying in carts, some even with IV drips. Each beggar had a plastic bowl and a QR code for payment in front of them, waiting for passers-by to scan the code and give alms. According to reports, this is the Songdafang scenic area in Shantou, Guangdong. Most beggars are concentrated in the worship area, which is crowded with worshippers and tourists because of its free admission. Local netizens revealed that these beggars have been appearing for several years, not recently. Similar situations are common in other scenic areas. Most netizens believe this is related to the economic downturn and high unemployment rate. At the same time, the social welfare system is weak, and the long-term unemployed and the elderly have difficulty obtaining assistance from the CCP's government, making their lives extremely difficult and forcing them to rely on begging to survive. In recent years, waves of layoffs and unemployment have swept across all industries. Income instability discourages people from spending, making it difficult for businesses to maintain operations and further reducing employment opportunities. The economy continues to decline in this vicious cycle, and the number of homeless people is surging accordingly.
我老公要失业了，没想到。
My husband is going to lose his job. I never expected 2026 to start this way. Last night he came home from overtime, sighing and looking worried. I asked him what was wrong, and he told me the factory was closing down and he was going to lose his job. A few days ago, after receiving his salary, we discussed saving some money so we can try to go back to our hometown for the Chinese New Year this time. He said that yesterday afternoon his boss called him in for a talk. Actually, their factory started laying off workers gradually in 2025. The workshop that used to have 27 people now only has 7. The factory is currently losing money every month, and they've been notifying employees these past few days about the factory's impending closure.
这几天通知员工厂子要倒闭的事儿。
The blogger said her husband used to work in a small private factory without social insurance or housing fund, so naturally he wouldn't receive any compensation after losing his job. The family had been supported by a $700 salary with a fixed monthly mortgage payment of $430, and their child is still in school, requiring additional expenses. Even if they managed to reduce living expenses to $70 per month, their fixed costs still amount to several thousand RMB. They had originally hoped to save more money over the next 2 years, but this sudden change left them completely at a loss. She consoled her husband, saying, "What's done is done, and there's nothing we can do about it. Since it's already like this, we can only face it calmly. There's always a way out."
失业了，现在刚刚被公司给辞退了。
I lost my job. I was just laid off from my company. This is what I did right after leaving. At 36 years old, I feel like such a failure. I have elderly parents to support and young children to raise. I don't know what to do next. I'm making a video today to record my experience. I hope I can pull myself together after a while. Are there any other guys my age who lost their jobs at this stage? How did you all get through it?
有没有和我一样年纪的兄弟，在这个年龄段失业？大家都是怎么熬过来的？
老公被裁员后，一家人没有了收入，是卖掉房子回老家。
After my husband was laid off, our family had no income. Should we sell our house and go back to our hometown to stay and struggle? Please give me some advice. In our family, I've always been a full-time stay-at-home mom, and my husband has been the sole breadwinner. We've worked hard in Harbin for many years, finally settling down. But then we were hit with layoffs and lost our stable income. We borrowed money from relatives and friends to buy the home, agreeing to pay back a portion each year. Now, our family has no income. We also have outstanding debts. Our child's school starts soon, and we need to pay tuition, as well as living expenses. Our dreams of a better life have turned into anxieties about daily necessities.
该卖掉亏损的房子回老家，还是咬牙硬扛，等待转机呢？
The blogger says they want to sell the house and go back to their hometown, but after inquiring about housing prices, they're even more anxious. The price has fallen even more than they imagined. If they sell now, they'll definitely lose money, but if they don't sell and continue to struggle, the family will have no income and be burdened with so much debt. They are at a loss for what to do.
今天是我失业躺出租屋的600天。
Today marks my 600th day of unemployment, lying in my rented room. If you're like me without a job or income, feeling anxious and lost every day, don't be afraid. You're not alone. Most unemployed people feel this way. When I first quit, I thought I'd take a break, but now 600 days have passed. This past year is just a small phase compared to the decades of working ahead, so I don't feel anxious about being temporarily unemployed. I'll rest when I need to. This kind of life, without having to get up early or be assigned work, is really comfortable. I go for a walk in the park every day, enjoying the present moment before starting work.
每天去公园转一转，趁还没有上班，过好当下。
My husband has lost his job again. He came back from the construction site late at night. Suddenly having no job and no source of income, I'm really at a loss. Most of the family's expenses are covered by my husband, especially during the holidays. Our eldest child has a zither exam and both kids need tutoring classes, so the costs will be even higher. At our age, with elderly parents and young children to support, the pressure of a mortgage and living expenses, I can sense his anxiety and panic. He works as a welder and has been frequently unemployed for the past 2 years, but he hasn't missed any overtime opportunities. He also mentioned that the average working age is now very young, with construction sites even limiting the age to 35. The blogger said she understands that the coming days may not be easy, but she comforted her husband, telling them to treat it as a break and a rest at home. Money can never be earned forever. As long as the family has food and drink and can make ends meet, that's enough. She believes the current difficulties are likely temporary, and that as long as she faces them calmly, things will get better.
刚才签完离职协议了，然后现在在
Today, I felt completely unemployed, now part of the unemployed population. An HR person contacted me this morning saying there was an interview this afternoon. I got up early and prepared all morning, but I haven't received any notices. I asked him if there were any interviews. He said if I hadn't received any further notice, I shouldn't go this afternoon. I don't know why almost all the resumes I've submitted haven't gotten any interviews. If there are, after a few words, it probably ends up being nothing.
说了几句之后，可能最后也是不了了之吧。
这就是我生完2胎的下场。
This is what happened to me after giving birth to my second child. My husband lost his job and I developed anxiety. 3 years ago, my husband and a friend started a wholesale business selling daily necessities. His partner suddenly withdrew and now my husband is running it alone. This year, many businesses across various industries have gone out of business, and naturally we've been affected as well, losing money every month. We're a typical family of 4, born in the 80s, living in a small county town. I've been a full-time stay-at-home mom for over 5 years. The family's finances depend entirely on my husband. Formula and diapers for the 2 kids are expensive, and we don't have much savings.
口袋里没什么存款。
The blogger said that in the first half of the year they could earn $400 a month, barely enough for daily expenses. But now they simply can't keep going, and her husband has decided to close the shop and stop trying to make it work. She understands her husband's helplessness and pressure given the poor economic climate. She wants to go out and earn some money, but her second child is only 4 months old and needs full-time care. If she stayed home with the baby, she wouldn't have any income. This put her in a dilemma, causing her to often sleep poorly at night, lose clumps of hair, and become physically and mentally exhausted. At the end of last year, both of us lost our jobs and haven't been able to find work since. We're unemployed and have to take care of a child. Look, taking care of a child, unemployed all day, not knowing what to do. The monthly mortgage payment is $580, and raising a child costs at least $300 per month. We have no savings and don't know what to do. We can't find work either. We've been looking for work since the Lunar New Year, but haven't found anything suitable. My husband lost his job again. He went back to work for less than a week and came back saying there was no work at the construction site, and he was temporarily laid off. He can only return to work when the boss starts the next project, and it's unknown how many days that will be. After hearing him say that, I felt quite down. I originally thought that as long as he was willing to work, things would get better. He earned enough to cover our family's expenses, and I saved what I earned, hoping to bring the child over in the second half of the year. But I didn't expect construction work to be so unstable. His unemployment has disrupted all our plans. I remember last year my husband lost his job several times, and we went through a very difficult period. We finally got through that hurdle, but now another one has come. The blogger said that many of her friends have also lost their jobs recently. They said it's particularly difficult to find work this year. On the one hand, the salary level is low, and on the other hand, all industries are not doing well. In addition, employers have age restrictions for workers, which further limits employment opportunities. Therefore, when she learned that her husband was unemployed, she found it hard to accept. However, she didn't want to put too much pressure on him, since this wasn't the outcome he wanted either. That's all for today. If you enjoy our content, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with a friend. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.